November 13, 2022. Just hours after brutally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in their beds, Bryan Kohberger walked into a Washington grocery store. Collected. Shopping for groceries like nothing had happened. Newly released surveillance footage captures his chilling movements in the hours following one of the most shocking college murders in American history. This is the complete timeline of what Bryan Kohberger did, and how investigators pieced together the evidence that would seal his fate. I'm your host at True Crime Tapes HQ, where every case is 100% real. If you're fascinated by criminal psychology and shocking true crime, hit that subscribe button now. To understand the horror of what happened, you first have to know the victims. 4 bright, promising university students whose lives were stolen in the early morning darkness of November 13, 2022. A food truck around 1:40 a.m., laughing with friends with no idea what was waiting for them. Xana and Ethan had been at a party at Ethan's fraternity and got back to the King Road house around 1:45 a.m. Just before 4 a.m., Xana got a DoorDash delivery. She was awake and on her phone when the killer walked in. Sometime between 4 o'clock and 4:25 a.m., a figure in black, wearing a mask, slipped into the house through an unlocked sliding glass door. Madison Mogan, who was 21, was a senior majoring in marketing. She was known for her vibrant personality and was inseparable from her best friend since the 6th grade, Kaylee Goncalves. Kaylee Goncalves, also 21, was just weeks from graduating. She had a new job lined up in Texas and was visiting Moscow for one more weekend with Madison. Xana Kernadle, 20, was a marketing junior and was dating Ethan Chapin. Her family remembers her as a fierce, loving, and infectious spirit. And Ethan Chapin, 20, was a triplet, a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, and was studying recreation management. He wasn't a resident of the house but was staying the night with his girlfriend, Xana. These 4 friends shared a 3-story rental home at 1122 King Road in the quiet college town of Moscow, Idaho, a community that hadn't recorded a single murder in 7 years. It was supposed to be a safe haven, a place where violent crime was something you only heard about in the news. That sense of security was shattered forever. 2 other roommates who lived on the first floor survived the attack. What they experienced that night would become a critical and haunting piece of the investigation. The night of November 12th started out as a typical Saturday. Kaylee and Madison went to a downtown bar before grabbing a late-night snack from Bryan Kohberger. Armed with a large military-style K-bar knife, he moved through the home with a terrifying and brutal speed. He attacked Xana and Ethan on the 2nd floor first. Xana fought for her life. One of the surviving roommates, identified in court documents as DM, woke up to what she thought was crying. She opened her door and heard a man's voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." The killer then went to the 3rd floor, where Kaylee and Madison were asleep in the same bed. The attack was sudden and vicious. After hearing a struggle and a dog barking, the surviving roommate opened her door again. This time she saw him. She described a man, athletically built and around 5 feet 10 inches or taller, walking right past her as she stood there in a frozen shock phase. He left through the same sliding door, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror and one single devastating clue: a tan leather knife sheath, lying on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. While a dark silence fell over the house on King Road, Bryan Kohberger's day was just beginning. The murders happened between 4 o'clock and 4:25 a.m. At 4:48 a.m., his cell phone reconnected to the network south of Moscow, which means it was likely turned off or in airplane mode during the attack. For the next several hours, he acted with a chilling composure that defied the brutality of what he'd just done. At 9:12 a.m., just 5 hours after the murders and while the victims' bodies were still undiscovered, cell phone data placed Kohberger right back in the area of the crime scene. For 9 minutes, his phone pinged off towers near the 1122 King Road residence. Was he returning to look at his work? Or maybe searching for the knife sheath he'd left behind? Only he knows the real reason. After this brazen return, he just continued with his day. Around 12:45 p.m. he was caught on surveillance video. He wasn't hiding or fleeing the state, he was shopping. He walked into an Albertsons grocery store in Clarkston, Washington, about a 45-minute drive from his apartment. For about 15 minutes he was just another customer on a Sunday afternoon. While we don't know exactly what he bought, it's the act itself that's so profoundly disturbing. This man, who just hours earlier had committed a quadruple homicide, was calmly going about his day. Sources close to the investigation later claimed that in the weeks that followed, Kohberger was seen wearing plastic gloves on other grocery trips, a possible sign of his growing paranoia. While Bryan Kohberger went back to his life as a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University, police were closing in. They ran the DNA from the sheath through public genealogy databases, a technique called genetic genealogy, which pointed them toward the Kohberger family. The final pieces of the puzzle started snapping into place. On December 27, investigators in Pennsylvania, where Kohberger had driven with his father for winter break, secretly collected trash from his family's home. They got a DNA profile from the trash and compared it to the DNA on the knife sheath. The lab reported a near-certain match, concluding the DNA from the trash belonged to the biological father of the man who left his DNA at the crime scene. They had their man, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, a 28-year-old whose academic studies, ironically, focused on understanding the minds of criminals. When they dug into his life, they found he drove a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra and his description matched the one given by the surviving roommate. His cell phone records revealed a disturbing pattern of stalking. He had been near the victim's home at least 12 times in the months before the attack, almost always late at night or in the early morning. The two timelines, the killer's and the police's, had finally merged. All of Kohberger's normal actions were now seen in a new horrifying light. His drive back to Pullman, his chilling return to the crime scene, his casual grocery trip, they all became data points that pointed to one person. In the pre-dawn hours of December 30, 2022, 47 days after the murders, an FBI SWAT team stormed the Kohberger family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Kohberger was arrested, extradited to Idaho, and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. For over 2 years he maintained his innocence, standing silent as a judge entered a not guilty plea for him. The state announced it would seek the death penalty. But in a stunning reversal just weeks before his trial was set to start, Kohberger accepted a plea deal on July 2, 2025. He pleaded guilty to all charges, admitting for the first time that he was the man who had ended 4 vibrant lives. In exchange, prosecutors took the death penalty off the table. On July 23, 2025, Bryan Kohberger was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 10 years for burglary. He will spend the rest of his natural life in prison. When the judge gave him a chance to speak and maybe offer a motive, he simply said, "I respectfully decline." The why may forever remain a mystery, locked away behind the killer's chillingly normal facade. The case of Bryan Kohberger is a harrowing reminder of how thin the line between normal life and unimaginable evil can be. It was his own movements, his belief that he could blend back into the world after such a heinous act, that ultimately led to his downfall. Every cell phone ping and every frame of surveillance footage became another breadcrumb for investigators to follow. The 4 lives lost, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, will never be forgotten. Their families and the Moscow community continue to grapple with a senseless tragedy, their pain a stark contrast to the cold, calculated actions of the man responsible. Thank you for watching. If you found this case as haunting as we did, don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest corners of human nature.